Welcome to another edition of the Monday Morning Tennis Rant. I'm going to talk about things that happened in the tennis world in the previous week. And let's start with the Billie Jean King Cup, formerly known as Fed Cup. Fed Cup was much easier to say, so let's call it BJK Cup. This is a tough one to say too. I think they shouldn't have changed the name, but all the respect goes to Billie Jean King, a legend of the game. And I didn't get to see many of the World Group qualifying matches for Fed Cup. I did see that the United States beat Slovakia 2-1, and they showed up with their C team. The United States is stacked with incredible WTA players right now. It's going to be interesting to see who ends up taking the title at the end of the year. But in any case, I was very interested in a BJK Cup match way below the World Group stage, and it was the Bosnian team. And Ema Burgic, who you might know from my channel, she has been featured on Intuitive Tennis for the last 4 years frequently. She played 2 matches for the team, and she beat the really good players. One ranked 194 in WTA, and one ranked 221 WTA. It is so inspiring to see how much better Ema has gotten. If you see Ema play on my channel, for example, the Ema versus Macy series, where I trained both of them, and you see some of the training sessions between Ema and I, and you compare that to how she's playing now, she always hit the ball extremely well, but she has gotten so fit. She's moving so much better. She's a completely different player, and this is proof that hard work does pay off, and it's going to be interesting to see how Ema does. Her ranking is slowly rising. She's around 800 in the world. If she's beating players ranked around 200, hopefully it's going to give her the confidence and the belief that she can get there. But it's a long, hard road. I'm going to be following it and reporting on it. But not only that, currently I'm running a series with Ema where she faces off against recreational male players. And now we're up to 5.0. So I got it all lined up. You can expect a video coming very soon, Ema versus 5.0. And if she wins that, we're going to go up to 5.5, and we're going to go until Ema ends up losing. I think it's a very interesting series. So now let's transition to the Monte Carlo Masters. So Carlos wins his first big title since winning Wimbledon last year against Djokovic. And it's quite a long time not to have won at the Masters 1000 level or at the Grand Slam level when you're as good as Carlos Alcaraz. And the fact that he hasn't won anything of that caliber just shows you how difficult it is to win those tournaments. It also puts into perspective how incredibly good the big 3 were, because they have a lot of Master Series titles and a tremendous amount of Grand Slam titles. So unfortunately, Carlos will always be compared to the big 3, and there's a lot of pressure on him. And Carlos admitted that he was dealing with something in the last month or so. It wasn't easy for him to get on the court, and even off the court, he had some troubles. He didn't say what it was. He didn't want to reveal it. So hopefully Carlos has overcome whatever was troubling him, and now he's back in the winner's circle on clay. One thing I noticed with Carlos is that he does lose his footing sometimes on the clay, but the way he recovers is so athletic, is so unbelievably fast. The guy is an incredible athlete. Now, maybe one of the reasons why he's losing the footing are the new Zoom Vapors. These are the Zoom Vapor 12, and it's the clay court version. I am going to review this. I don't necessarily like the way it looks, but maybe it's good. I have not tried it yet, so we're going to see. But in any case, Alcaraz has the variety that's so important on clay. He's got a phenomenal drop shot. He plays incredible defense. What I saw this week in Monte Carlo was a couple of things that I normally don't see from Carlos, which was the different positioning when he's serving to the ad side. So he will stand way closer to the doubles alley and kick the ball out wide. Love that play for him. And I did see some serve and volley as well. So Carlos Alcaraz is so versatile, and this versatility helps tremendously when you're playing on the red clay. So let's break down the final against Musetti. Carlos in some of the matches this week in Monte Carlo has had cold starts, but he didn't necessarily start bad in this match. He broke Musetti in the first game, and he was sharp right from the get-go. But Lorenzo showed how good of a player he is, overcoming such difficult matches to make it to the final. He was in a battle in the first round against Bu. Then he quite frankly should have lost to Lehechka, was down 6-1, 5-4, 30 love, and he ended up winning that. Then he beat Berrettini comfortably in straight sets, a battle against Tsitsipas in a quarter, and an unbelievable battle against the Demon in the semis. So Lorenzo has been playing incredibly well, and early in that first set against Alcaraz, he was simply not missing anything. If I remember correctly, all the way up to being up 4-1 against Alcaraz, he didn't commit a single unforced error. And I think that's what surprised Alcaraz, because he did start sharp. Okay, Alcaraz is a big match player. One stat that's super interesting regarding Alcaraz is the fact that in all the big finals that he's played, he's only lost two. And both of the times he lost to Djokovic. So one was in Cincinnati in 2023, and of course, last year at the Olympics. All other big finals, Alcaraz won. So this guy is a champion. Champions are those players who can perform their best when it matters the most. So Carlos was sharp in that first game, but Lorenzo wasn't missing anything. And I think the fact that Lorenzo came out strong, maybe Alcaraz didn't expect him to come out so strong. Alcaraz started pressing a little bit too much and started making some mistakes here and there. And Musetti ended up winning that first set 6-3. But then in the second set, Alcaraz cleaned up this game and started playing unbelievably well. When Carlos Alcaraz plays at the level that he played in the second set against Musetti, the last two sets against Cerundolo, this guy can be close to impossible to beat on the clay court surface, unless we're talking about someone like Sinner taking him out. So Carlos Alcaraz has the potential to be very dominant on the clay. And when Carlos plays the way he played in that second set, he's not making that many mistakes. He's got that incredible versatility. He can absolutely blast the ball. There are so many forehands that he hit over 100 miles an hour. There's not much that any player can do when he plays like that. So he wins that second set 6-1. Now we're in the third set, and very early in that third, unfortunately, Musetti hurts himself. He does something to his hip or his quad, hard to say, but something on his right side was hurting so bad that he couldn't move, and the match was over. So he continued to play, though, until the end. And some people were wondering why he didn't retire. You know, it makes sense to retire when you have an injury like that. If you keep playing, you can injure yourself further. But I respect Musetti for not wanting to retire in a big final like this. This is the first time he was in a Masters 1000 final. So it makes sense to me. And my hope is that is something that happened due to exhaustion, because except the Berrettini match, this guy was in 3-set battles through the entire week and played so phenomenally well. One thing that surprised me was how good his serve is. He was serving so well. The versatility on his backhand, the way he can change direction on his one-handed backhand. And most importantly, I think his best shot is the forehand. When he has time to load up, he's so incredibly aggressive with that forehand. Moves extremely well. He is a phenomenal player on all surfaces, but especially on clay. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that Carlos Alcaraz won the last two tournaments without Juan Carlos Ferrero. And of course, people are saying Juan Carlos Ferrero needs to be fired. Carlos Alcaraz does a lot better when he's not there. Well, first and foremost, Alcaraz won 4 Grand Slam titles with Ferrero. So you can't really make that argument, okay? But to me, and I've said this before, it doesn't matter so much if Ferrero is there or not. I have been critical in the past of how much info gets shouted down to Carlos when he's playing matches. I think at certain times it appears to be too much, but I've heard that Juan Carlos Ferrero is like a family member to Carlos. It's a tight-knit coaching team, and it makes absolutely no sense to make any changes. Why fix something that's not broken? This team is working exceptionally well. I've heard that Carlos still lives at the academy. I don't know if that's true. I know there's a series coming out on Netflix with Carlos very soon. So the connection between Carlos and the Ferrero Academy is extremely strong. And of course, it's part of the reason why Carlos is great. But the coaching that happens at the tournament is the least important coaching. It's my belief that Carlos could have showed up alone without anyone to Monte Carlo and still won the title. The important coaching happens in between the tournaments, happens before the tournaments, and the preseason, and so on. And the development stage coaching is unbelievably important. So when it comes to the tournament, all the work is already done, and now you just got to give it your best and see what happens. And of course, I'm not saying that coaching during a tournament is not important. It can be important, but it's a very small percentage. Now, I did see that Alcaraz is playing Barcelona, and I think this is a great opportunity for Carlos to go on a clay rampage. And if he can win this tournament in Barcelona, he's the big favorite. And if he then goes to Madrid and takes that title, he's going to have 3 in a row, something that Rafa did many, many times. And like I said in my last video, he then can go into Rome with a tremendous amount of confidence, and Sinner will be there. And now we have a ranking that makes a lot more sense. Sinner number 1, Alcaraz number 2. It is not Zverev's fault that he was ranked number 2 for so long. Rankings do not lie. Zverev was the second best player in the world based on points. Now, was he the second best player in the world while being ranked number 2? I don't think so. That's why I always kept calling Alcaraz the second best player in the world, even though he was ranked 3rd. Alcaraz won 2 slams last year. Zverev won 0 slams. But the fact that Alcaraz was ranked number 3, it just shows you how inconsistent he has been over the last 12 months. So that's why I say rankings don't lie. And the next step for Carlos is to build up consistency. He's always going to be dangerous to take a Masters 1000 or a Grand Slam within a season. But these ups and downs where there's like first and second round losses intertwined with great results, that's the next challenge for Carlos. And I do believe that he is going to figure it out. I've analyzed his strokes. I've watched so many of his matches. I've tried to understand him from a mental standpoint. And I truly believe that we have not seen prime Alcaraz yet. I think we're going to see Alcaraz at his prime between the age of 25 and 30. The way I'm looking at it is that once Carlos goes through the stages of life, when he loses some of that youthfulness, which is something that I think will naturally happen, I think this is when we're going to see his absolute best tennis. He's only 21. We often forget that because he got to the top of the game so young. So we got to put that into perspective. And I do see that he's an incredible worker and he tries to get better. He's working hard on his game. When I analyze the last 3 seasons, I am seeing improvements within each season. And that's why I'm saying we are far away from seeing prime Alcaraz, even though he's already won 4 Grand Slams. I think he's going to be able to put together seasons like Sinner's last season down the road. Is he ready to do that? Well, the first stepping stone to that is to go on a clay court rampage and start cleaning up on these tournaments, which he's highly capable of doing. Let's focus on Barcelona and let's see what happens there.